heavy. It's emotional even though you see your friends up here and you know that they're not truly taken from your life. When it comes to tragedies like this, so many people think that won't happen to me. That was me. And I'm gonna share with you how someone making the choice to get behind the wheel after drinking impacted my life and my family's life. This will work. Okay, so like many of you, I was born and raised here in Sonora. I have a little brother, and mom and a dad, and white picket fence. Life was good. My dad is 6'7". They call him 6'7" Kevin. He's a beast of a man. He's my hero. Couldn't do anything wrong in my eyes. And I have just the best memories. Life was normal. It was good. On June 18th, I had my 11th birthday, and I had just recently joined a travel softball team in Modesto, and practice fell on my birthday. And I was kind of bummed because I wanted a party to do something fun, but my family raised me that when you commit to something, you need to commit, you need to follow through, so I had to go to practice. And my dad, knowing I was kind of bummed about it, he's like, well, let's make this special. I'm gonna take you on my motorcycle. He had a huge Yamaha motorcycle that he drove to work every day. I'm gonna take you on my motorcycle and we'll go have a daddy-daughter date. We'll go to dinner together. It'll be fun. And so I was really excited about it. So we went, and I remember so many different snapshots of our date together. He was super dorky, walked around Wranglers all the time, sang Garth Brooks at the top of his lungs even though he couldn't carry a tune. And I remember we had these microphones so we could talk to each other, and him singing I've Got Two Pina Coladas by Garth Brooks and making jokes. I remember stopping at the stoplight in Oakdale where the big clock is, and I remember him saying, oh man, we shouldn't have wore shorts. I'm like, why? I was going to softball practice in the summer. Why not? He's like, well, just in case we got in an accident, it's not good to wear shorts, it's better to wear pants. And I'm like, when am I gonna get in an accident? Like, that doesn't happen to us. Little did I know. So we got to practice. Practice was awesome. I was a pitcher, and I was hitting all my spots. And I remember seeing him behind the backstop, so proud, just having that, proud dad face. And practice was over, jumped on the bike, headed back home. And he's like, okay, Jessica, you have to decide where you want to go to dinner tonight. And like most girls have this problem, I could not decide. We went by every single restaurant in Modesto, and I could not pick where I wanted to eat dinner that night. Going through Oakdale, I could not pick where I wanted to eat dinner, and we finally got to Mountain Mike's Pizza. He's like, look, this is the last restaurant until we're gonna be home. We have to stop here. Okay, no problem. So we stopped, had a pizza together, just had a great time. I remember, we bundled up because it got cold. It was probably around 8:30 or 9, around that time, probably around 9. And bundled up, got back on the bike. I remember seeing the white picket, the white fence where the rodeo is in Oakdale as you're passing by on the left. And I remember him saying, I love you. And I remember saying, I love you too. And my memory is super spotty after that. The next clear memory that I have is being in a hospital bed, and I had an aunt on each side of me. My head hurt, and they were trying to brush my hair out because I had knots. It was all matted and knotted from dried blood and mud. And I was just like, what happened? I just didn't understand what had happened. And they kept repeating, you were in an accident. I'm like, what? I don't understand. Like, Jessica, you're gonna have to talk to a police officer here. They're gonna come and ask you about, the night of the accident, but I still didn't understand what was happening. And I learned later that on that same night, on that same day, someone else, Mr. Williams in our community, he was having a bad day himself. And had a fight with his girlfriend. Things just weren't looking up for him. And he decided to go to the bar. He was in a lot of pain, rough day, I'm gonna go have a drink. And he had another, and he had another, and he spent pretty much the whole afternoon and evening there. And then he made the choice to get behind the wheel. I'm gonna go home, it's been a long day. I'm gonna go home. And in Jamestown, he was turning to go home on 5th Street. It is right after Sierra Motors. You guys know where Sierra Motors is in Jamestown, and that green grassy hill where that cross is? That's where our accident was. He turned too soon because he was very intoxicated, didn't see us. And I later heard his recollection of that night, and he's like, yeah, I remember, it's kind of a blur, but I remember feeling like a thud. That was me. That was my dad. He hit us so hard that our left legs were smashed between the motorcycle and the truck. In some of the newspaper clippings, you can see my cleat from practice pinned between the motorcycle and the truck, but we still, after that collision, we flew 20 feet and landed on that little grassy hill, both knocked unconscious. I know these pictures aren't very big, but the video that you guys just saw of your friends, this was my reality. We were both knocked unconscious, had to be med-flighted to separate trauma hospitals. I went to doctors, he went to Memorial, because our injuries were so bad that for the best chance of us surviving through the night, we needed our own trauma teams. We required immediate surgery to save both our life and our legs. I was in a coma and on life support for a week. I had 5 surgeries on my leg. I had crushed both bones in my shin completely, and my femur bone, my thigh bone on my left leg, was broken in 5 places and required a metal plate and 10 pins. My dad was in pretty bad shape too. And when I get to this point and retelling this story, I can only imagine my mom. You know, what's crazy is that she was only 32. I'm gonna be 32 in a few months, which is so bizarre for me, so young. And when I've talked with her about this night and what it was like for her, what was her reality, she said she knew at 10:30 when we didn't show up that something had happened, and she just started praying. Shortly after, my uncle, who worked for the sheriff's department at the time, knocked on the door with our pastor. She answered the door, and they said, Gina, Kevin and Jessica were in an accident, and it really doesn't look good. We need to go right now. So, she jumped in the car, a wreck, of course. There's only one way to get to Modesto from here, through Jamestown. Can you imagine knowing that your husband and your daughter might not make it through the night, and then you have to drive by the accident scene that is still very fresh with the truck and the motorcycle that they were on? I can't imagine. And then she has to decide who she's gonna go see. Her daughter, her husband. They both not make it. Who do I take the chance of not being able to say goodbye to? I can't imagine. All of this happened because someone made the wrong choice. A choice that was totally preventable. That's the hardest thing, the hardest reality I feel like with driving under the influence of anything. Nobody should die from that. It's not like a cancer or an illness where sometimes you're just really unlucky. It is 100% preventable. This is a picture of my shin in the hospital. This is my mom and my dad, and her just praying incessantly for him to wake up. I woke up after about a week, and after a couple weeks they had moved me home to a hospital bed. I still had to have a nurse come see me 2 times a day for dressing changes. I had 48 staples on the side of my thigh, and I still had these gnarly rods in my shin. So the dressings had to be changed on them so I didn't get an infection. So I had family move in, and it was kind of a tag team to help take care of me, and all my 7 cousins were there, and it was kind of crazy, but we were okay until we weren't. And I will never forget this piece of the story. It was July 5th, and my pastor walked in the room, and then my mom, and she looked horrible. Her eyes were bloodshot, she was pale. I'm like, Mom, are you okay? Like, are you sick? She just shook her head no. They brought my brother in and sat him down next to me. And my aunts walked in, my cousins walked in. I'm like, what's going on? My mom came over, and she was like, Jessica, Bobby, last night Daddy went to be with Jesus. And the flood of chills and emotions and fear, and I could not comprehend what she was saying. I didn't understand, but he was okay. He was, getting better at least. If he died, am I gonna die too? We were in the same accident. And I remember that thought just going over and over and over in my head. I couldn't sleep, you guys. I couldn't turn the lights out at night because I thought for sure, if he died, then I'm gonna die. So I don't wanna close my eyes because I'm scared that I won't wake up. And I lived with that for a while. I always had to have noise around me and people around me to keep me awake and alert and make sure that I was still alive. And I know that maybe that sounds crazy, but that was kind of how I coped with all of this. He was 32 years old, married to his high school sweetheart. He had worked for 10 years out at our prison as a correctional officer, and he was known as the practical joker. I still hear stories of him and how great of a guy he was out on the softball field. He was just everyone's friend. And he was so young. And he didn't have to die. But because of someone's choice, he's not here anymore. He wasn't here to walk me down the aisle. He wasn't here to see me graduate from high school. He wasn't here to see me go on to continue to play softball and play in college. He wasn't here to see me graduate from college. He's not here to see his 2 grandsons that look so much like him. It is bizarre. And he missed all that life because of one man's poor decision. And that's kind of what I really hope you walk away from this whole event with. Life is really about our decisions that we make, our choices that we make. This is a drunk driver who hit us. He had 10 other DUI cases before he took someone's life across different states. And he kept getting his license back because he would just move states. And so at his trial, because of his past record, he was charged with not only vehicular manslaughter, but second-degree murder. He was considered a menace to society because he obviously wasn't learning from his poor decisions. He got 15 years to life, and he ended up spending 21 years in prison. Life is a result of the choices that we make on a daily basis. And I know that some of you and some of the people in your high school are going to make fun of this event. They're going to make fun of the people involved. They're going to laugh it off. They're going to make jokes about it. I really hope that's not you, because you have the potential to make a difference. At 11 years old, I thought I was going to die. I struggled to get through each and every day. I couldn't walk for a year. My family was totally shattered. This is the only way I could sleep for a year. My uncle slept next to me in an old recliner. His poor back. But he did, because that was the only way that I could sleep, knowing that someone else was next to me. And this was the only way that I could get comfortable. If this still hasn't hit home for you, which I hope that it has, I want you to think about the person you love more than anyone in the world, the person that is the absolute closest to you. And imagine tomorrow they're gone because someone chose to get behind the wheel under the influence. A completely preventable act. How would you feel? Angry. It didn't have to happen. It was preventable. If someone would have just spoken up, if someone would have just told them they didn't have to do this, I would have gone and picked them up. This is why we need a community. This is why we look out for each other, right? So I had an interesting full circle life moment about 1.5 years ago. I went to the 4th parole board hearing for the drunk driver who hit us. And he had failed the 3 previous ones. And I got to sit across the table from him. It was so bizarre because my life changed because of this man. And it was about 4.5 hours long, and I had to relive this story and hear his account of what happened in his life. And the parole board asked him why he made certain decisions, why he drank that night, his previous cases of domestic violence, his previous DUIs. And there was something that I walked away with. He had said, blamed a lot on his dad died when he was younger. This person did this to me, this person did that to me, that's why I did this. Do you catch that? It's a victim mentality. He still thought he was the victim of the situation. I never felt that way. Yes, this happened to me, but I write my future. It's up to me how I'm going to respond to this. And I'm thankful by the grace of God and my family that was supportive. That's just kind of what I went with. That's why I'm up here. These things are never easy for me, as you can imagine, because I'm reliving my hell that I went through. But if it could save one life, it's totally worth it. And so I recognize that I have a choice to make too. And the only difference between him and me is that it's my perspective. You have a perspective on your life, on your hardships, on your situation right now, on what you're going to do with your future. It's no one else's responsibility but your own. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and try something. We all have pain, and I think sometimes the hard part about pain is it can be kind of isolating. You can feel like no one gets what I'm going through. But in the 6 billion people on the planet, I can guarantee you that someone's gone what you are or have gone through, and they've survived. That's the beauty of scars. I've got these crazy scars on my leg from this accident, and so many people are like, are you going to get those covered up or taken off? Isn't it painful to remember? I'm like, heck no. Not only is it's not a reminder of pain for me, it's a reminder that I survived. So, if you have experienced any kind of deep pain, abuse, trauma, loneliness, loss of a loved one, if you can identify a time in your life where you just felt broken, will you just stand up really quick? Look at the room around you. No one has an easy life. We all hurt at some point. Take a good look around you. You guys can sit down, thank you. I just want you to know that you're not in this alone. Don't let your pain define you. I see so many people who have lost their dad, or their dad left at a young age, or they were abused, and all these things are horrible. Don't get me wrong. It is easier to let that define you and say, I didn't have anyone to show me any different, so that's why I choose to use drugs. That's why I chose to drink. That's why I'm just gonna lap this off. That's why I'm not gonna, try to be better for myself. It's harder to push through that pain. I've learned there's 2 sides to pain. There's the uncomfortable part, there's the struggle, there's the hardship, and then there's the other side that takes effort. There's the other side that motivates you. That's why I'm here. Because if one person's life could be saved or changed It's worth it. It's worth every hard piece of this for me. You have a story because you've struggled, and it's now your responsibility to show other people that they can get through it too. So don't let your pain define you. Let it motivate you to be different, to stand up for what's right, to be a positive influence and make an impact around you, because whether you guys recognize it or not, you are influential. Even if you don't want to be, you are. And it's up to you if it's going to be a positive influence or a negative one. Only you can decide that. It's not up to your parents, it's not up to your friends, it's not up to your siblings, it's not up to your teachers or anyone, it's up to you. Only you can make that decision. It is 100% your responsibility how your story turns out. You're gonna have curveballs come your way, but you can always change your perception of the situation and how you react to it. So choose to be great. Thank you guys for listening.